Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I am Dr. Corey White, and I'm so happy you decided to join us today as we talk about the 5 mistakes that people make when interviewing for an assistant principal job. For me, I interviewed 3 times before I landed that position. Some of my students that I work with have interviewed more than 3. Some have been blessed to land that first job based off of some of the things that we will talk about here. And so my goal today is to try to help you avoid 5 simple mistakes that can be avoided and help you land that job. So let's talk about it first. But before we get started, do me a favor and like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We have learned that 75% of the people that watch our channel, they don't subscribe yet. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. So name dropping without any type of strategy. When people casually mention people's names that may work in the district, that used to work in the district, you want to be careful about that. You never know how people are connected and what their former relationships, professional relationships were with these people. So be mindful. And when you name drop, it makes it look like it's more about the people that you know versus your qualification, that you're leveraging your connections based over your qualifications. And you and I both know that you are highly qualified to do this position. So why not let that come through? I remember my second job that I interviewed for, it was a middle school position, and I had just finished my administrative program. Very excited, confident, competent, nailing all of the questions. Well, this principal, we're just walking around. She made me very comfortable. She's asking me questions the entire time. And for some strange reason, I decided to mention my professors on my dissertation committee. And he was well known throughout the district, very helpful to our cohort. Well, lo and behold, little did I know, that was this particular principal's ex-husband. And I had heard some of the stories casually shared with our classes that we had at that particular university from his end. And who knew that I would be speaking or interviewing for his ex-wife? And funny story, he knew all along I was going to interview for her and never said a word or put that connection through. I will not say in her defense that that is why I did not get the job, but I do want to caution you about name dropping. Be careful about that. One of the things, instead of name dropping, you can talk about the work that you've done, the collaborative work you've done in groups. You don't have to name people. I was always one that it was important for me to get across that when working with my assistant principal that was helping me go through my administrative program to gain my hours, I just mentioned that I have had so many administrators that were so supportive with me and being open to any ideas and allowing me to implement. So I mentioned those relationships and the work that I was able to get accomplished under different leaders, never dropping any name. There is a right way or a different way you can go about that. The second mistake, failing to come prepared with school-specific knowledge, giving generic answers without tailoring responses to the school's needs. I cannot stress this enough. When you come into an interview and know absolutely nothing about the school, it comes across that you are just interviewing for a position just because. It may be you want a title or you may want more money, and all of those things may be true. I hope not. I hope you're doing it to impact a greater number of students and teachers and staff for the greater good, but neither here nor there. You'd have to study and pull the data of the school. I remember that every school I went to, I pulled their school improvement plan off of the website. During that time, all of that stuff could be found on the website. Now, there are a lot of things you can go to the state website for attendance data, for academic data or test data of the students. Again, do your homework first. even if, which I'm praying, no judgment here, if you do need more money, that's fine. That is completely okay. But you don't want that to be your driving factor, or you definitely don't want that to be perceived in your interview. So do your homework. Mistake number 3, not owning the data conversation, struggling to talk confidently about using data to drive decisions. People in this day and time of accountability, especially if you are in a public school setting, they want to know how you utilize data in your own world. Yes, you may have been a classroom teacher for the last 10 years. That's wonderful. Guess what? You have or should have some sort of data to let them know how you made decisions on your next steps in your class, or what were you going to teach, or what did you have to go back to teach, or how did you use your grade levels data, or how did you use your department's data, if it's biology, to come up with a plan and try to get better. So think about that. I know I was a grade chair for many moons. I tried to run from it, but God knew what I needed. But I got outside of the walls of just looking at what my 30 kids were doing, and I looked at the entire grade level. I was a math and science guru for my grade band, and so I started working with and volunteered to work with our newer teachers to the grade level, teaching their classes or their students that were struggling in a particular area so we could help bring up the entire grade level. We started changing classes before that was popular, before the official response to intervention. But I was, again, blessed and fortunate enough to have school administrators that trusted me to roll this plan out. Those are the things I was able to speak to in my interview for an assistant principal. All right, mistake number 4, over networking or talking too much about internal politics, mentioning hallway conversations, insider info, or who said what in the district. Look, guys, you're always going to have people that are talking. You're going to walk into rooms where you may come in on a piece of a conversation. There are certain things that you should not repeat. For number 1, it's going to come across that you are gossiping, and it's going to feel very unprofessional, or comes across as unprofessional in an interview setting. We have all been in places where it may have been a good thing that you heard some things, but you have to understand, just like the internet, everything that you hear may or may not be true. So this kind of ties back into the other one. You just want to go in there and show that you are confident and competent enough within your own works, and it doesn't matter what you have heard on the grapevine. But that is one thing I want to caution you to stay away from. Please refrain from going into an interview, especially calling names of what someone has said or you've overheard, because it's definitely going to come across that you are being unprofessional and a gossiper. And those are the people that leaders tend to cringe from and don't want on their staff, because I can guarantee you from experience, people are people. No matter where you work, you can be in a church, in a doctor's office, it doesn't matter, but you're going to have one person at least that takes care of that role, that they are the head unprofessional gossiper on the team. So again, they're not looking for someone else that's going to add to that problem, especially somebody in a leadership role. So take a step back, and please don't bring that into your interview or into your work day. Judgment-free zone, guys. All right. And the last mistake that people make and what they could do differently. Well, let's pause here. If you have not subscribed, let's go ahead and hit that button for me. Thank you so much for watching so far. I'm so grateful and honored that you stayed with us today. And I do have more tips. Of course, if you need a coach like me, I am here to assist you. I think I've had great success in coaching others, and it's just my love and desire to see people succeed. All right, so let's close this out. Failing to tell a clear leadership story. listing job duties without connecting them to leadership and growth. Why does this hurt you? The panel wants to see a leadership mindset. They don't want to just see what you've done with supervision or discipline. They want to hear that mindset come out. That is why I work with people with reworking their resumes as well to address this very issue. If you are going into an interview and just saying, yeah, I grade 60 papers in ELA and 60 in math every day, and I manage classroom behavior, and I present during faculty meetings. Well, what's the outcome of all of that? How has what you are doing on a day-to-day basis show that you can lead others to the same type of success? Again, remember the 5 mistakes to avoid when you are interviewing or preparing to interview for an assistant principal's job: name dropping without strategy, failing to come prepared with school-specific knowledge, not owning the data conversation, over networking or talking too much about internal politics, and lastly, failing to tell a clear leadership story. Coach tip for this last one: I've read so many books about using the STAR method, and that's just you tell about the situation, the task, the action, and the result. That is what so many people, leadership coaches, will coach you through interview strategies. Remember the STAR method. That's an easy one. My dear sweet husband taught me that years ago from the business world. That is what they use. Again, situation, task, action, result. More from Dr. White. You know what to do. Please subscribe, like, share, follow, and thank you again, and we'll see you next week.